Your mind has been spinning all day, maybe all week. That tight feeling in your chest, the what-ifs that won't quiet down, the worry about tomorrow that makes it hard to be here, right now, in this bed. Tonight, you'll discover that Jesus spoke more about anxiety than almost any other struggle, not because he wanted to lecture you, but because he knew how exhausting it is to carry fear alone. We're going to walk through some of the most tender moments in Scripture where Jesus directly addresses the worried heart, the racing mind, the soul that's tired of being afraid. Even if you've heard these stories before and they didn't help, even if your anxiety feels too big for old Bible verses to touch, we're going to encounter them differently tonight. Not as homework, but as an invitation to let someone else hold what you've been carrying. By the time we finish, you won't have solved your anxiety, but your nervous system will have permission to soften, and you'll know that the one who calmed literal storms sees the storm inside you too. So let your body sink a little deeper into whatever is supporting you right now. Notice the temperature of the air on your face. Feel the weight of your head. You don't have to hold it up anymore tonight. Welcome to Sleepy Christian. Let your jaw unclench if it's been tight. Let your tongue rest against the bottom of your mouth. You don't need to be alert anymore. There's nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to figure out before morning. Your whole body can soften into this moment, this breath, this quiet space where rest is the only thing being asked of you. If you found this place tonight, you're welcome to rest here. If this time helps you breathe a little easier, you can come back whenever you need to. And if you'd like to share what brought you here tonight, the comment section is always open. It's a gentle space where we hold each other's exhaustion without judgment. Let us begin. Father, we come to you tired of worrying, tired of being afraid, tired of the stories our minds tell us about all the ways tomorrow could go wrong. We're not asking for our circumstances to change tonight. We're just asking to feel, even for a moment, that we're not carrying this alone. Meet us here, in the quiet, in the dark, where we don't have to perform or prove anything. Let our bodies remember what it feels like to be safe. Amen. Our first story takes us to a hillside in Galilee, where Jesus is teaching a crowd of ordinary people who are worried about the same things you're worried about tonight. There's food to put on the table, children to care for, work that never quite feels like enough, and that constant hum of anxiety about whether everything will hold together. The morning sun is warming the hillside now, gentle and golden on skin that's already been working since before dawn. Wildflowers are scattered through the grass, small purple ones, white ones that look like stars, moving slightly in the breeze that comes up from the lake. You can hear it if you listen closely enough, that soft sound of small birds chirping in the gnarled olive trees behind the crowd, their branches twisted and ancient, offering patches of shade. People are sitting on the ground, some with their legs crossed, others with their knees drawn up. There are work-worn hands resting on worn robes, calluses from fishing nets and carpenter's tools and kneading bread before sunrise. There are faces lined with the same exhaustion you carry. Mothers who haven't slept through the night in years. Fathers who lie awake calculating how to make the week's wages stretch far enough. Young people already feeling the weight of responsibility settling onto their shoulders like a yoke. And Jesus is standing there among them, not above them, his own hands marked by labor, his own face showing that he understands what it means to be human and tired and carrying worry. He's been watching the birds, these common little sparrows that dart and swoop overhead, and now he points upward, inviting everyone to really look at them, to stop and notice. The birds don't plant crops in the spring, he says. They don't harvest in the fall or build storehouses to keep grain through the winter. They don't lie awake at night wondering if there will be enough. And yet, God feeds them. Every single morning, they find what they need. Their Father in heaven takes care of them. And then Jesus turns back to the people sitting on the hillside, to these men and women who've been up since before light, who've been working their fingers to the bone, who've been trying so hard to keep everything from falling apart. He looks at them with such tenderness and asks a question that lands differently when you're lying in the dark, when your mind has been racing through worst-case scenarios for hours. Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? There's something almost gentle in the way he asks it. Not accusatory, not disappointed, just honest. Worry doesn't actually fix anything, does it? It doesn't add time or food or money or safety. It just keeps you awake. It just makes your chest tight and your shoulders tense and your stomach hurt. All that energy, all that mental labor, and nothing changes except that you're more exhausted. But then he says something that makes the question less harsh. Are you not much more valuable than they? The birds, common sparrows everywhere, hardly worth noticing in the market. God feeds them. And you, sitting here on this hillside or lying in your bed tonight, you are worth so much more. You matter more than birds. Your life, your needs, your fear. It all matters to the one who made you. For you, tonight, this isn't about pretending you have no real problems. Jesus isn't saying your anxiety is silly or unfounded, or that you should just stop worrying and everything will be fine. Your problems are real. The things keeping you awake are legitimate concerns. The fear isn't imaginary. But what Jesus is offering here on this hillside is a different truth that can exist alongside your real problems. Worry doesn't actually solve them. Anxiety, for all the space it takes up in your mind and body, doesn't add anything except more exhaustion. And more than that, more important than that, you are seen. You are valuable. The God who takes care of common sparrows knows you exist, knows what you're carrying, knows you're lying here tonight feeling like you might drown in what-ifs. Your anxiety doesn't disqualify you from being held. It doesn't make you less worthy of care. The birds don't stop being birds by refusing to worry, and you don't stop being deeply, infinitely valuable to God by being anxious. You're allowed to be both, worried and precious, afraid and held, uncertain about tomorrow and still mattering completely today. We can lie here together tonight and let that truth settle somewhere deeper than our racing thoughts. We don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to fix our anxiety before we're allowed to rest. The birds don't earn their breakfast. They just wake up, and it's there. And maybe, just maybe, we can borrow a little of their unself-conscious trust. Not because we're sure everything will be okay, but because someone bigger than our nervous systems is paying attention. As this settles over you, notice your shoulders. Are they up near your ears? Let them drop just a little, even a fraction of an inch. Feel the rhythm of your breathing. You don't have to control it or deepen it or make it perfect. Just notice it's there. In and out, steady. Your body knows how to breathe without you managing it. Let that be true for just this moment. In the same conversation, still on that sun-warmed hillside with the birds calling overhead and the crowd settling in to listen, Jesus bends down. He reaches toward the grass near his feet and touches a wildflower growing there among all the others, small and purple and unremarkable. The flowers on this hillside are everywhere if you look closely. They push up between the blades of grass, scattered like careless beauty, like joy that doesn't need permission. There are tiny purple blooms, delicate white ones with yellow centers, small red flowers that close at night and open again with morning. They don't do anything. They just exist, rooted in this particular patch of earth, opening their petals to the sun, swaying slightly when the breeze comes through. You can smell the grass if you're sitting close enough to the ground, that green, alive smell of growing things, mixed with the warm scent of earth and the faint perfume of flowers that aren't trying to be noticed. The air tastes clean here, away from the dusty roads and crowded marketplace. It's the kind of morning where you could almost forget to worry if you let yourself just be here, just feel the sun and smell the grass, and watch the small, simple beauty of flowers that will be gone in a week. Jesus holds one of these flowers gently, this little thing that probably won't survive the next hot wind that someone will step on tomorrow without noticing. And he tells the crowd something that must have sounded almost absurd. Even Solomon in all his royal splendor, with all his wealth and purple robes and gold and fine linen, wasn't dressed as beautifully as this flower. Think about that for a moment. Solomon, the richest king Israel ever had, legendary for his wisdom and his wealth, with a palace full of treasures. The kind of person who could have anything made, anything imported, the finest craftsmanship in the known world. And Jesus is saying that this wildflower, which will be here today and gone tomorrow, which no one will remember or mourn, is more beautifully dressed than Solomon ever was. The flowers don't labor over their appearance. They don't spin thread or weave fabric or worry about whether they're beautiful enough. They don't lie awake at night, anxious about how they'll bloom or whether they're doing it right. They just grow. They just exist. They just are. And that's enough for God to make them beautiful. Not because they earned it or worked for it or even knew to want it, but because that's who God is. He makes things beautiful without them asking. There's something almost scandalous in this teaching, isn't there? The flowers do nothing. They contribute nothing. They don't justify their existence or prove their worth. By tomorrow or next week, they'll be dried grass, maybe used to fuel a fire. Their life is brief and unremarkable and easily overlooked. And yet God clothes them in beauty that surpasses the most powerful king's finest outfit. If God cares that much about grass, Jesus says, if he takes that kind of attention, that kind of creative delight in flowers that will be gone tomorrow, how much more will he take care of you? Tonight, lying here in the dark with your mind trying to solve every problem and plan for every contingency and figure out how to hold everything together. This is permission to stop trying so hard. Your worth isn't measured by your productivity. Your value doesn't come from how well you're managing your anxiety, or how effectively you're keeping all the plates spinning, or how much you accomplish tomorrow. Like the lilies, you don't have to earn the right to be cared for. You don't have to justify your existence, or prove you're worth the resources you take up, or demonstrate sufficient gratitude or spiritual maturity before God will pay attention to you. You already belong to the one who makes wildflowers beautiful without them asking, without them even knowing they need it. We spend so much energy trying to be enough, working harder, doing more, fixing ourselves, managing our emotions, white-knuckling our way through anxiety, while also feeling guilty that we're anxious in the first place. And Jesus is pointing at flowers and saying, look, they don't try, they just receive, they just exist, and that's enough for God to pour beauty into them. What if that's true for you too? What if you don't have to earn rest or peace or care? What if your anxiety doesn't disqualify you? Your struggle doesn't make you less valuable? Your exhaustion doesn't mean you're doing it wrong? What if you're like the lilies, already cared for, already held, already worth more than you can imagine just by existing? We can rest in that tonight, not because we've figured out how to stop worrying, but because someone who makes flowers beautiful is holding us too. Let your whole body feel a little heavier where you're lying. You don't have to hold yourself together right now, or hold yourself up, or hold anything at all. Just be here, just like the lilies are just flowers, present and receiving without earning. Notice your breath moving in and out without your permission, without you controlling it. Your body knows how to just be. Let it. Jesus is still on the hillside, and the sun has climbed a little higher now. The teaching about birds and flowers has settled over the crowd like a blanket. Some comfort, some confusion, some wondering if it can really be that simple. And Jesus, knowing that people need concrete handles to hold on to, that anxiety isn't resolved by pretty imagery alone, gives them something specific to do with tomorrow's worry. After everything he said about birds who don't store grain and flowers who don't labor, after painting these pictures of God's attention to small, brief, unremarkable things, Jesus doesn't promise that tomorrow will be easy. He doesn't say that if you trust God enough, bad things won't happen. He doesn't spiritualize the real problems away. Instead, he says something remarkably practical, something that every person lying awake at 3 a.m. needs to hear. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. The crowd is shifting slightly now, some people nodding slowly, faces still creased with concern, but maybe softer than they were. There's a woman near the front, with a baby on her hip, rocking slightly out of habit, even though the child is quiet. There's a man whose hands keep moving, as if they're still working, even though he's sitting still, fingers remembering the motions of his trade. There's an older woman whose eyes look tired in a way that sleep won't fix, the kind of tired that comes from years of carrying too much. The breeze moves through the grass again, carrying the sound of those small birds and the distant bleating of sheep on another hillside. Someone coughs. Someone else adjusts their position on the hard ground. Life is still happening. Problems are still real. Tomorrow is still coming with all its uncertainties. And Jesus isn't denying any of that. He's not saying tomorrow won't have trouble. In fact, he's quite clear that it will. Each day, he says, has enough trouble of its own. Today has real problems. Tomorrow will have real problems, too. That's just true. That's life in this broken, beautiful, difficult world. But here's what he's saying. Don't borrow tomorrow's problems tonight. Don't pull future trouble into this present moment. Don't lie here in the dark trying to solve things that haven't happened yet, worrying about scenarios that may never come, carrying weight that isn't yours to carry right now. Your anxiety wants you to solve every possible future problem immediately. It wants you to think through every what if, every worst case scenario, every way things could go wrong. So you'll be prepared. So you won't be caught off guard. So you can control the outcome, or at least feel like you have some control. And your mind will give you very good reasons why you need to worry. Because things are genuinely uncertain. Because bad things do happen. Because you have real responsibilities. Because people are depending on you. All of that can be true. And it can still be true that worrying about tomorrow doesn't actually help you handle tomorrow when it comes. It just makes today harder. It takes the trouble that belongs to tomorrow, which isn't even here yet, which may never arrive in the form you're imagining, and adds it to the trouble that's already in today. Now you're carrying double. Jesus is inviting us gently to put tomorrow down, not because tomorrow doesn't matter, not because the future isn't real, but because tonight, right now, in this moment, tomorrow isn't here. You don't have to carry it yet. You're allowed to just be in today, even if today is ending, even if today has been hard, even if you're lying here at the boundary between today and tomorrow, feeling like you can't face what's coming. For you, lying here in the dark, this is an invitation to put tomorrow down for a few hours. Your anxiety will tell you that you can't, that if you stop vigilantly preparing and planning and worrying, something terrible will happen. But Jesus is saying that tomorrow will bring what it brings, and you'll face it when it comes, and adding tonight's exhaustion to tomorrow's trouble won't help anything. Tonight, we're just here. The bed beneath us, the dark around us, the breath moving in and out of our lungs. Tomorrow isn't here yet, and when it comes, when the sun rises and a new day begins with whatever it brings, we'll face it then. Not now. Not in this quiet, not in this rest. We can lie here together and practice letting tomorrow exist in its own time, instead of dragging it into ours. We can notice when our mind starts spinning forward and gently, without judgment, come back to this moment. The texture of the pillow, the weight of the blanket, the quiet sound of our own breathing. This moment, this breath, this chance to simply not carry what isn't ours to carry yet. Notice your breath again without trying to change it. Each inhale is just this moment, just this one breath coming in. Each exhale is letting go of the next moment, the next worry, the next what if you haven't reached yet. In, this moment. Out, let it go. In, right now. Out, not yet. Your body understands this better than your mind does. Let your body lead for a while. Now we move from the hillside to water, from the teaching about tomorrow's trouble to an actual storm that Jesus' friends thought might kill them. The Sea of Galilee, late at night, when everything solid and safe suddenly isn't anymore. Jesus and his disciples have been teaching and healing all day. The crowds pressed in, hands reaching, voices calling, needs that never stop. And when evening finally comes, Jesus tells his friends, "Let's go to the other side of the lake." There's a weariness in that decision, a need to get away, to cross to where the crowds aren't waiting, where there might be space to breathe. So they get into their small wooden fishing boat, the kind these men know intimately because some of them make their living on this water. It's a sturdy boat, well made, but still just wood and tar and rope, something human hands built that can be unmade by wind and waves. The disciples settle in with practiced ease, some of them taking oars, others adjusting the sail, everyone knowing their role because they've done this countless times. The lake is calm when they push off from shore, just the gentle lapping of water against the wooden hull, the soft creak of the boat settling under their weight. You can smell the water, that mineral scent mixed with fish and the freshness that comes from being on open water. The sky is darkening, stars beginning to appear, and there's a gentle breeze that fills the sail and pushes them steadily forward. Jesus finds a spot in the back of the boat on a cushion, probably a mat or folded cloak that serves as the closest thing to comfort in this rough vessel. And he lies down, just lies down, his body finally able to rest after a day of pouring himself out. Within minutes, maybe seconds, he's asleep, deeply asleep, the kind of sleep that comes when you've given everything and your body just shuts down. The disciples are rowing or managing the sail or keeping watch, or maybe just sitting, glad for the relative quiet after the chaos of the crowds. The boat rocks gently on the water. The shore recedes behind them. The night settles in, and then everything changes. The wind picks up suddenly, not the gentle breeze they've been riding, but something else, something fierce and violent that seems to come from nowhere. The Sea of Galilee is known for this, for storms that drop down from the surrounding hills with terrifying speed, turning calm water into chaos in minutes. The disciples know this. They've seen it before. But knowing doesn't make it less frightening when it happens. The waves start hitting the side of the boat, each one harder than the last, water sloshing over the edge, soaking everyone's feet, their legs, the bottom of the boat starting to fill. The wind is howling now, ripping at the sail, making the boat buck and twist. The disciples are shouting, scrambling, some bailing water, others fighting with the oars, everyone doing what they know to do but feeling it isn't enough. This is a real storm, real danger. These are experienced fishermen, and they're terrified, which means this isn't an overreaction or needless panic. When people who make their living on the water think they might drown, you believe them. And Jesus is still asleep. Not just resting with one eye open, not lightly dozing, deeply, soundly asleep in the back of the boat with the storm raging around him, with water pouring in, with his friends shouting in fear, his head on that cushion, his breath steady and slow, his body completely at rest while everything else is chaos. Finally, someone, probably more than one of them, scrambles back to where he's sleeping and shakes him awake. And the question they ask is so raw, so human, so full of genuine terror and confusion. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown? Don't you care? We're dying here, and you're sleeping. We're bailing water and fighting the wind and thinking these might be our last minutes alive, and you're resting like nothing's wrong. Don't you care?" Jesus opens his eyes. He stands up, somehow steady on the bucking, rocking boat, and he speaks, not to the disciples, to the wind and waves. "Quiet. Be still." And they are, just like that. The wind stops like someone flipped a switch. The waves settle into calm like glass. The boat stops its violent pitching and just floats. Gentle, steady. The only sound now is water dripping, people breathing hard, the stunned silence of men trying to process what just happened. And then, Jesus turns to his friends, these men he loves, who were genuinely terrified, who thought they were about to die. And he asks them a question. "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" It's not harsh, not condemning. It's wondering. It's tender and puzzled, like he genuinely wants to understand. After everything you've seen, after everything we've been through together, why are you still so afraid? Tonight, lying here in your own kind of storm, maybe not literal wind and waves, but the internal tempest of anxiety that feels just as deadly, just as out of control, notice something. Jesus wasn't anxious about the storm. He slept through it. Not because he didn't love his friends or didn't care if they lived or died. He slept because he knew something they didn't yet know, that even in the middle of a deadly storm, even when everything feels like it's falling apart, even when people who should know better are terrified, he has authority over the chaos. The storm in your mind right now feels just as real as the one on that lake. Your anxiety is convinced that if you don't stay vigilant, if you don't keep worrying, if you don't maintain control, something terrible will happen. Your body is responding like you're in genuine danger, heart racing, mind spinning, chest tight, unable to rest because the threat feels so real. And Jesus isn't asking you to pretend the storm isn't happening. Your problems are real. Your fears have reasons behind them. The what-ifs aren't completely irrational. He's not dismissing any of that. But he is asking, gently, with love, if you can trust that he's still in the boat with you, even when it feels like he's asleep, even when it feels like he doesn't care or isn't paying attention or has forgotten about you in your storm, even when you're bailing water and shouting and convinced you're about to drown. He's still there, and the chaos that feels overwhelming to you, he can speak to it. He has authority over it. He can say, "Be still," and it will be still, even if not yet, even if not tonight, even if you have to wait longer than you want to. Your storm doesn't surprise him. Your fear doesn't offend him. Your desperate, "Don't you care?" doesn't make him love you less. He just keeps asking, tenderly, if you can trust him, even when he seems to be sleeping through your terror. We can rest in that tonight, not because the storm is gone, not because anxiety has magically disappeared, but because someone bigger than our nervous systems is in the boat with us, and he knows how to calm wind and waves, both outside and in. Feel the surface beneath you right now, solid, stable, holding you up. You're not in the storm in this moment. You're here, in the quiet, in the stillness that exists right now, even if your mind is somewhere else. Your body knows the difference between real danger and remembered or imagined danger. Let your body tell you the truth. Right now, in this moment, you're safe enough to rest. In another moment, captured in another gospel, we find Jesus speaking directly to people who are exhausted from trying to hold everything together. This isn't on a hillside or in a boat. This is in a town square, maybe outside a synagogue, somewhere public where people gather, the marketplace, the well, the dusty center of daily life. The people around Jesus have been working since before dawn. Their hands are rough from labor, their backs ache from bending, their minds are tired from the constant weight of responsibility. There are mothers who haven't had a full night's sleep in years, who measure their days in increments of need. Feed this child, wash these clothes, prepare this meal, manage this household, with no end in sight. There are fathers whose worth seems measured entirely by their ability to provide, who lie awake calculating wages against expenses and always coming up short. There are young people already feeling the yoke settling onto their shoulders, the family business, the arranged marriage, the religious expectations, the future that feels predetermined and heavy before they've even begun. And it's not just physical exhaustion, though. That's real enough. It's the spiritual weight they're carrying. The religious leaders have given them list after list of rules to follow, laws to keep, rituals to perform. 613 commandments, the rabbis say, each one necessary, each one a potential failure point. Don't touch this, don't eat that, wash this way, pray at these times, bring these offerings. And if you fail, when you fail, because failure is inevitable, there's shame and judgment and the fear that maybe you're not acceptable to God. Maybe you'll never be acceptable. Maybe you're just not good enough and never will be. The burden isn't just in their hands and backs. It's on their souls. The constant striving to be righteous enough, obedient enough, pure enough, faithful enough. The exhaustion of trying to earn what they're told must be earned, carrying weight they were never meant to carry, performing religion instead of receiving relationship. You can see it in their faces, the weariness that goes bone deep, the kind that sleep doesn't touch. You can hear it in the way they move, slow and heavy, like every step costs something. You can feel it in the air around them, this collective exhaustion of people who are doing their best, and it never feels like enough. And into this space, to these people, Jesus speaks words that must have sounded almost too simple to be true. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Not try harder, not pray more, not figure out what you're doing wrong and fix it, not maybe if you were more faithful, more disciplined, more spiritually mature, you'd feel less exhausted. Just come as you are, tired as you are, burdened as you are. Come. He doesn't list prerequisites. He doesn't say you have to clean yourself up first, or resolve your doubts, or overcome your anxiety, or get your life in order. He doesn't say you have to understand theology, or master spiritual disciplines, or prove you're serious enough to deserve his attention. The invitation is to everyone who is weary and burdened, which, if we're honest, is everyone. And the promise isn't, I'll give you strategies to manage your exhaustion, or I'll teach you techniques to cope with your burdens, or I'll show you how to be stronger and carry more. The promise is, I will give you rest, not help you find rest, not show you how to create rest. I will give it to you, like a gift, like something you receive, not something you earn. Then he gets more specific. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. A yoke, that wooden frame that goes across the shoulders of oxen to help them pull heavy loads together. Jesus is saying, take my yoke, work with me, let me carry this with you. And the yoke he offers isn't like the one they've been carrying. It's not the crushing weight of religious performance and impossible standards and constant striving. His yoke is gentle. He is gentle, lowly in heart, humble, accessible, not the stern taskmaster they've been taught to fear. And the rest he's offering isn't just physical sleep, though that matters. It's rest for your soul. Rest in the deepest part of you, the part that never gets to stop striving, the part that's tired of performing and proving and trying to be enough. The crowd hearing this might have thought it sounded too good to be true. Some probably dismissed it as naive or simplistic. Rest? Now? With everything we're carrying? But others, the ones who'd reached the end of themselves, who had nothing left to give and nowhere else to turn, might have felt something loosen in their chests, might have felt tears coming, might have felt a whisper of hope that maybe, possibly, there could be another way to live besides this exhausted striving. For you tonight, lying here in the dark, this is what's happening right now. You came here looking for rest, and that's exactly what Jesus said to do. Not to have all your anxiety figured out first, not to be spiritually mature enough to deserve it, not to have overcome your struggles or resolved your doubts or gotten your life under control, just to come, tired as you are, worried as you are, burdened as you are, and let him hold the weight for a while. The invitation is exactly the same now as it was then. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Not might give, not could potentially give if you do everything right. Will give. Present tense, available now, for you. We lie here together tonight, accepting that invitation. We came weary. We came burdened. We came with anxiety and worry and exhaustion and all the things we wish we didn't have to bring. And that's exactly what was invited. This is the coming Jesus asked for. This moment, this breath, this letting our bodies finally stop performing. This is the rest he promised to give. We don't have to carry everything alone. We don't have to hold it all together. We don't have to be strong enough or faithful enough or anxiety-free enough to deserve a few hours of peace. We're just here, learning what it means to take his yoke, the gentle one, the one that doesn't crush, instead of the one we've been struggling under. As you hear those words, I will give you rest. Let your body believe them, even if your mind isn't sure yet. Feel your muscles soften slightly, as if you're setting something heavy down. Notice your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. Are they clenching? See if you can let them relax, just a fraction. You don't have to hold everything so tightly. Not tonight. This is the coming. This is the rest. You're already doing exactly what Jesus invited you to do. We find ourselves now on another hillside, later in the day, with thousands of people gathered and not nearly enough food. This is one of those moments where a real problem, a practical, physical problem, meets Jesus' presence, and something impossible becomes possible. The sun is starting to lower in the sky, that golden afternoon light that makes everything feel both beautiful and urgent. Families are sitting on the grass. Mothers with children, old men with their grandchildren, young couples, solitary seekers. They've been here all day, listening to Jesus teach, watching him heal people, caught up in something bigger than their daily routines. And now everyone is getting hungry. Not just a little hungry, genuinely, physically hungry in the way that makes children cranky and adults short-tempered. You can hear the restlessness starting. Children whining, stomachs growling audibly, people shifting position, the energy changing from rapt attention to physical need. The disciples are noticing it too, starting to get anxious about the logistics. There are so many people, 5,000 men, the gospel says, which probably means closer to 10 or 15,000 when you count women and children who weren't included in that count. That's a small town's worth of people, all needing to eat, all miles from anywhere that sells food. The disciples approach Jesus with the obvious solution: send everyone away. Let them go back to their villages and buy food. Get them off this hillside before the situation becomes a problem we can't manage. It's practical advice, sensible. The kind of thinking that comes from looking at resources and need and doing the math that says it doesn't add up. But Jesus looks at them and says something that must have made their anxiety spike even higher. You give them something to eat. You can almost feel the panic in the disciples' response. Philip does the mental arithmetic immediately. It would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for everyone to have just a bite. And they don't have that kind of money. Nobody has that kind of money. This is impossible. The problem is too big. The resources are too small. The gap between what's needed and what's available is insurmountable. Andrew finds a boy in the crowd. Maybe he's been standing there the whole time, or maybe he steps forward when he hears the problem. Who has 5 small barley loaves and 2 fish? Barley bread, not wheat, the cheap kind, the bread poor people eat. And 2 small fish, probably dried or pickled, the size of sardines. It's a child's lunch, barely enough for one growing boy, laughably insufficient for a crowd of thousands. Andrew brings the boy forward, but even as he's doing it, you can hear the resignation in his voice. Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many? How far will they go? Not far at all. It's nothing. It's almost embarrassing to even present it as a solution. It highlights the insufficiency rather than solving anything. 5 loaves, 2 fish, 15,000 people. The math doesn't work. The math will never work. But Jesus takes the boy's lunch. He has everyone sit down in groups on the green grass, organizing them, making space, preparing for something even though from a human perspective, there's nothing to prepare for. The evening light is soft on the hillside. People are settling into their groups, maybe curious, maybe skeptical, probably still hungry and wondering what's about to happen. And Jesus takes those 5 small loaves and he looks up to heaven. He gives thanks, not for abundance, for almost nothing, for insufficient resources, for a child's lunch that can't possibly feed anyone except that one child. He gives thanks as if it's already enough, as if the problem is already solved, as if the gap between need and resource has already been bridged. Then he begins breaking the bread and distributing it, and there's enough. Somehow, impossibly, there's enough. Not just barely enough, not just everyone gets a tiny taste, everyone eats as much as they want. The bread keeps coming, the fish keeps appearing, hands keep passing food down the lines of people, and baskets keep being filled and emptied and filled again. The smell of fish and fresh bread fills the air. You can hear the sounds of eating, of satisfaction, of need being met. And when everyone has had their fill, when people are sitting back with their hands on their stomachs, when children have stopped fussing, when the desperate edge of hunger has been satisfied, the disciples go around collecting the leftovers. 12 baskets full, more than they started with. The leftovers from almost nothing are more abundant than the original almost nothing was. The miracle isn't just that Jesus multiplied bread. The miracle is that he took what looked like complete insufficiency, what was objectively, mathematically not enough, and made it abundance. He took the gap between need and resource and filled it so fully that there was more than enough, so thoroughly that there were baskets of excess. For you tonight, if you're anxious about not having enough, not enough money to pay the bills, not enough time to do everything that needs doing, not enough energy to make it through tomorrow, not enough emotional reserves to handle one more thing, not enough strength to keep carrying what you're carrying. This story isn't promising that bread will literally multiply in your kitchen, but it is whispering something true. The one who fed thousands with almost nothing sees what you're carrying. He sees what feels like not enough in your life. He sees the gap between what you need and what you have, between the demands on you and the resources available to you. He sees you doing the math and coming up short, feeling the panic of insufficiency, lying awake anxious about how you're possibly going to make it work. And he hasn't forgotten you. The God who can take 5 loaves and 2 fish and feed 15,000 people hasn't looked at your situation and thrown up his hands. Your not enough doesn't surprise him or exceed his capacity. What looks impossible to you, what is impossible by human calculation, isn't the limit of what he can do. We don't have to have it figured out tonight. We don't have to solve the math problem of our lives, don't have to find a way to stretch what we have far enough, don't have to anxiety our way into sufficiency. We can just notice that there was once a boy who brought his almost nothing lunch to Jesus, and somehow everyone ate. We can lie here holding our own almost nothing and trusting that the one who multiplies is still in the business of bridging gaps. Let your hands rest open now, palms up if that feels comfortable. You don't have to hold on to things so tightly tonight. You don't have to grip and control and manage every resource, every minute, every ounce of energy you have left. Just rest with open hands, receiving instead of grasping. Feel the release in your fingers, in your wrists, as you stop clenching and just let your hands be held by the surface beneath them. Now we enter a small home in Bethany, just outside Jerusalem, where two sisters are responding very differently to Jesus' presence. This is one of those quiet domestic scenes that reveals so much about anxiety and striving and the terror of not doing enough. The house is warm, maybe uncomfortably warm, with the cook fire going and no breeze coming through the small windows. You can smell food cooking, something savory and rich, herbs and oil and bread baking. It's the kind of smell that would normally be comforting, but right now it's just a reminder of everything that still needs to be done, everything that has to be perfect, everything that could go wrong. Martha is moving through the space quickly, her hands never still. She's chopping vegetables, stirring pots, checking the bread, arranging cushions, wiping surfaces, mentally cataloging what still needs to happen before the meal is ready. Her movements have that particular quality of someone who's doing important work and resents that they're doing it alone. There's tension in her shoulders, a tightness around her mouth. She's not enjoying this. She's enduring it, powering through it, doing what needs to be done even though it's exhausting and thankless and never-ending. And there, in the main room of the house, sitting on the floor near Jesus' feet, is Martha's sister Mary, just sitting, just listening. Her hands are still. Her face is calm, maybe even peaceful. She's leaning forward slightly, the way you do when you don't want to miss a word of what someone is saying, completely absorbed in the teaching, completely present to this moment. You can imagine the sound of Martha's busyness in the background, the scrape of a knife on the cutting board, footsteps moving back and forth, the clatter of pots and dishes, the small huffs of effort and frustration. And in contrast, Mary's stillness, her attention fixed on Jesus, her choice to just be here, to just receive, to just listen instead of doing. Martha's resentment builds with every trip from the cooking area to the room where everyone is gathered. Every time she passes through and sees Mary sitting there, doing nothing, contributing nothing, leaving Martha to handle everything alone, the irritation grows. And it's not just irritation about the immediate situation. It's deeper than that. It's the exhaustion of always being the responsible one, always being the one who does what needs doing while others get to relax. It's the bitterness of performance, of feeling like you have to earn love and approval and belonging through constant work, while others seem to receive it freely. Finally, Martha can't hold it in anymore. She stops in the middle of the room, probably flushed from the heat and the work and the emotional strain, and speaks directly to Jesus. Not to Mary, to Jesus, making him responsible, making him complicit in this injustice she's experiencing. Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Don't you care? There it is again, that raw question that comes from the anxious heart. Don't you see how hard I'm working? Don't you notice that I'm doing everything and she's doing nothing? Don't you care that this is unfair, that I'm carrying all the weight, that I'm anxious and distracted and overwhelmed and she's just sitting there? There's such pain in that question, such genuine exhaustion. Martha isn't wrong that work needs to be done. She isn't wrong that hospitality matters, that someone has to prepare food, that practical tasks are important. She's not being unreasonable. She's just tired and anxious and upset about many things, as Jesus is about to say. And Jesus responds with such tenderness. He says her name twice, Martha, Martha, the way you might speak to someone you love who's spiraling, who needs to be called back to themselves. There's no harshness in it, no disappointment, just gentle redirection. You are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Worried and upset about many things. That's the heart of it, isn't it? Martha's anxiety isn't really about the dinner. The dinner is real, the work is real, but the anxiety, the need to make everything perfect, the compulsion to keep moving and doing and achieving, the resentment toward anyone who isn't performing at her level, that's about something deeper. It's about believing that her worth depends on her work, that she has to earn the right to be here, to matter, to be loved. And Jesus is saying gently that she's chosen the harder path. She's taken on worry and upset that wasn't necessary. She's made herself responsible for many things when only one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen it. Mary chose presence over performance, being over doing, receiving over achieving. And that choice, Jesus says, is better. That choice won't be taken away from her the way achievement can be taken away, the way performance eventually exhausts itself, the way anxious striving never actually leads to rest. Notice that Jesus doesn't tell Mary to get up and help. He doesn't split the difference and suggest they share the work. He doesn't validate Martha's anxiety by agreeing that yes, all this frenetic activity is necessary and important, and Mary should be doing it too. He affirms Mary's choice. He protects her stillness. He says what she's doing, sitting, listening, receiving, is better than what Martha is doing, even though what Martha is doing feels more important, more necessary, more productive. If your anxiety keeps you performing, achieving, proving, doing, if you feel like you can't stop moving or everything will fall apart, if you believe your worth depends on your productivity, if you resent others who seem able to rest while you carry all the responsibility, hear Jesus say your name twice, gently, with love, like he said Martha's. He's not angry at your worry. He's not disappointed in your striving. He just wants you to know that you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to choose the better thing. You're allowed to sit at his feet and just be here, just receive, just rest, without earning it through constant work. We spend so much energy trying to justify our existence through achievement. We pile responsibility on ourselves and then resent the weight we're carrying. We create standards of perfection and then exhaust ourselves trying to meet them, all while feeling like we can't stop because who else will do it? What will happen if we're not holding everything together? And Jesus is saying with such tenderness, Martha, Martha, you, stop, breathe. Only one thing is needed, and it's not the thing you're anxiously performing. It's presence. It's receiving. It's letting yourself just be here, loved, without earning it. For you tonight, this is permission. Permission to stop performing, even in this quiet moment. Permission to not have to do anything or prove anything or achieve anything or fix anything. Permission to just be Mary for a few hours, sitting, listening, receiving, resting at the feet of Jesus without justifying why you're allowed to be there. The meal will get made or it won't. The work will get done or it won't. Tomorrow will bring what it brings. And tonight, right now, you're allowed to choose the better thing. Rest. Notice if you're holding tension in your body, as if you're still preparing for the next task, still braced for the next demand. You can let that go now. There's nothing you need to do until morning. Let your body stop performing. Feel your muscles soften, your breath deepen, your whole being settle into just being rather than doing. You're allowed. Jesus said so. This is the better thing. Back on the Sea of Galilee, in the middle of another night, the disciples see something that defies every natural law they understand. They're in their boat, rowing against the wind, making slow progress across the water. And then, in the pre-dawn darkness, they see a figure walking toward them, on the water, not in a boat, not swimming, walking, as if the surface of the lake were solid ground. The fourth watch of the night, that's between 3 and 6 in the morning, the darkest hours, when exhaustion makes perception unreliable and fear lives closest to the surface. They've been rowing for hours, fighting wind and waves, and now this. Their first reaction is terror. It's a ghost, they think. Some supernatural apparition, some omen of death or disaster. Their shouts of fear carry across the water. But then a voice cuts through their panic. "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." Jesus' voice, familiar and solid and real, not a ghost. Their teacher, their friend, somehow walking on water in the middle of the night as if this were the most natural thing in the world. And Peter, impulsive, earnest, always the first to speak or act, calls out across the waves, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water. If it's you." There's still a thread of doubt there, still a need for proof, still the cautiousness that comes from knowing this shouldn't be possible. But there's also longing in that request, a desire to be where Jesus is, to do the impossible thing, to step out of what's safe and known. Jesus answers with one word: "Come." Just come. No conditions, no warnings about what it will require or how difficult it will be, no preparation needed. Just come. And Peter does it. He swings his legs over the side of the boat. Feel the wooden edge digging into his thighs, the nervous energy in his muscles, the deep breath he takes before committing. His friends are probably shouting, trying to stop him, warning him this is insane. But Peter steps out onto the water, and it holds him. His foot touches the surface of the lake, that surface that should sink under weight, that should be liquid and yielding, and somehow it's solid, solid enough to stand on, solid enough to take another step, and another. Peter is walking on water, actually doing it, moving toward Jesus across an impossible surface, defying gravity and physics and everything he knows about how the world works. For a moment, maybe several moments, maybe longer, it works. Peter is walking on water. The wind is still blowing. The waves are still rough. But Peter's focus is on Jesus, his eyes locked on that familiar face, his body moving forward in trust and wonder and exhilaration. This impossible thing is happening, and he's doing it. But then something shifts, maybe a particularly strong gust of wind, maybe a wave larger than the others, maybe just the sudden awareness of what he's actually doing, the logical mind catching up and screaming about impossibility. Peter notices the wind, feels the waves, realizes where he is, standing on water that should not hold him, suspended above depths that could drown him, doing something that breaks all the rules of reality. And the moment he focuses on the storm instead of Jesus, he starts to sink. It must happen fast. The feeling of the surface giving way beneath him, the cold water suddenly around his ankles, his knees, pulling him down. Panic floods his chest. He's going to drown, right here, within sight of Jesus, within reach of the boat. He's going to sink and drown because he took his eyes off the one thing that was keeping him above water. He cries out, "Lord, save me!" And immediately, without hesitation, without a lecture about doubt or a lesson about faith, Jesus reaches out his hand and catches him. Immediately. Not after Peter has struggled for a while. Not after he's learned his lesson. Immediately. The hand is there, solid and strong, pulling him up, keeping him from going under. And then Jesus asks gently, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" It's not harsh. It's wondering. It's the question of someone who genuinely wants to understand. What made you take your eyes off me? What made you focus on the storm instead of trusting that I had you? They walk back to the boat together, Jesus supporting Peter, both of them climbing in. And when they do, the wind dies down. The whole crisis, the storm, the fear, the impossible walk, the sinking, all of it settles into calm. Tonight, lying here in your own experience of starting to sink, this story speaks directly to your anxiety. Maybe you stepped out in faith at some point. Maybe you took a risk, made a change, trusted God with something important. And for a while, it worked. For a while, you were walking on water, doing the impossible thing, trusting despite the odds. But then you noticed the wind, felt the waves, became aware of all the ways this could go wrong, all the reasons you should be afraid, all the logical impossibilities of what you're trying to do. And the moment your focus shifted from Jesus to the storm, from trust to fear, from presence to what if, you started to sink. And now you're here, in the middle of the night, feeling like you're going under, convinced that you've failed, that your wavering faith means you've lost your chance, that doubt disqualifies you from being caught. But notice, Jesus didn't let Peter drown. He didn't wait. He didn't stand on the water watching to see if Peter would figure it out on his own or demonstrate sufficient faith to deserve rescuing. He immediately reached out. His hand was there before Peter finished crying out. The saving came faster than the sinking. Your wavering faith, your fear, your doubt, none of it makes Jesus pull away. None of it makes him love you less or decide you're not worth rescuing. None of it means you're doing faith wrong or that you've failed some test. Jesus is still reaching. His hand is already extended. He's not waiting for you to have perfect trust before he catches you. He catches you so you can trust. We lie here tonight, maybe feeling like we're sinking, maybe convinced we've taken our eyes off Jesus and now it's too late, maybe anxious that our doubt has cost us something we can't get back. And this story says, no, the hand is already reaching. The catching happens immediately. You're not going to drown, even though it feels like you are. Even though you focused on the storm, even though you doubted, even though you started to sink, the hand is already there. Feel yourself being held right now. Not by your own effort or your own faith or your own ability to stay focused on the right things. Just held by this bed that's solid beneath you, by the air around you that's supporting every breath, by the one who catches people when they sink, who doesn't wait for perfect faith, who reaches immediately when we cry out. You're not falling. You're held. You've always been held. Let your body know that truth, even if your mind is still caught in the storm. Jesus tells a story about himself using an image his listeners would have known intimately, a shepherd and his sheep. This isn't abstract theology. This is daily life for people who lived in a world where shepherding was common, essential, deeply understood. Picture the rocky hillsides around Judea and Galilee. Not gentle, grassy slopes, harsh terrain, full of dangers, steep cliffs where a sheep could fall, caves where predators hide, thorny plants that catch wool and skin, and scattered across these difficult hills, flocks of sheep with their shepherds. Sheep are not noble creatures. They're not brave or independent or particularly intelligent. They're vulnerable, easily frightened, prone to wandering, unable to defend themselves. They need constant care, guidance to find food and water, protection from predators, rescue when they get stuck or lost or injured. A sheep without a shepherd is a sheep in mortal danger, and every person listening to Jesus knows this. The shepherds in Jesus' world weren't the sanitized figures from Christmas cards. They were tough, weathered men who lived outdoors, who knew every inch of their territory, who could read the weather and smell danger, and fight off wolves and bears with nothing but a rod and a staff. They slept on the ground with their flocks. They counted each sheep every night to make sure none were missing. They knew which ones were likely to wander, which ones were weak, which ones needed extra attention. And there was a crucial distinction everyone understood: the difference between a hired hand and a shepherd who owned the flock. The hired hand works for wages. When danger comes, when wolves appear or bandits approach, the hired hand's calculation is simple. Is this job worth my life? Usually the answer is no. He runs. He saves himself. The sheep aren't his. Their loss isn't his loss. He can get another job. But the shepherd who owns the flock, who's raised these sheep from lambs, who knows each one by name, that shepherd doesn't run. That shepherd stands between the danger and the sheep, even if it costs everything. Because these are his sheep. They belong to him. Their life is worth his life. Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd." The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Not might lay down. Not considers laying down if the circumstances are right. Lays down. Present, tense, definite. The defining characteristic of the good shepherd is that he's willing to die for his sheep, not because the sheep are worthy or valuable on their own, but because they're his, and he loves them. He continues, "The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it." This is what we fear, isn't it? That when real danger comes, when the threat is genuine and serious, we'll be abandoned. That whoever we thought was protecting us will turn out to be just a hired hand, someone who doesn't actually care enough to stay when things get hard, who will save themselves and leave us to be scattered and devoured. But Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep." I know my sheep. Not just know about them or know they exist. Know them. The way the Father knows the Son and the Son knows the Father. Intimate, complete, personal knowledge. The shepherd knows which sheep limps slightly on the left hind leg, which one startles easily at loud noises, which one tends to wander toward danger, which one gets anxious when separated from the flock. He knows their voices, their habits, their weaknesses and strengths. He calls them by name, and they know his voice. And there's a relationship there that goes beyond mere management. Your anxiety might be telling you right now that you're on your own, that you have to protect yourself because no one else will do it. That if you let your guard down, if you stop being vigilant and controlling and managing every potential threat, something terrible will happen, and no one will be there to stop it. And Jesus is saying, you're not a shepherd trying to keep yourself safe. You're a sheep, and that's okay. That's actually the point. You're not supposed to be able to protect yourself from wolves and cliffs and thorns. You're not supposed to have the wisdom and strength and vigilance to navigate all the dangers alone. That's not your job. That's the shepherd's job. And your shepherd isn't a hired hand. He's not someone who'll cut his losses and run when the threat gets too real. He's the good shepherd, the one who lays down his life for the sheep, the one who doesn't run, doesn't abandon, doesn't decide you're not worth the cost. He already decided you're worth everything. He already proved it by staying, when staying cost him his life. For you tonight, This means you can stop trying to be your own protector. You can let go of the exhausting vigilance that anxiety demands, the constant scanning for threats, the belief that if you're not on guard every moment, something terrible will slip through. You're not the shepherd. You don't have to be the shepherd. There's already a good shepherd, and he knows your name, and he's not going anywhere. We lie here as sheep who can finally stop trying to be shepherds. We can let our vigilance soften. We can trust that we're known, really known, in all our weakness and worry and tendency to wander, and we're not abandoned. The good shepherd stays, even when it costs everything, especially when it costs everything. That's what makes him good. Let your vigilance soften now. Just for these hours of sleep, you don't have to be the one on watch. You don't have to scan for dangers or prepare for threats or keep yourself safe through sheer willpower. Let your body remember what it's like to be a sheep who trusts the shepherd. Vulnerable, yes, but held. Dependent, yes, but known. Rest like something that's being protected by someone else, someone who won't run, someone who stays. Feel your muscles unclench with the relief of not having to be your own guardian tonight. One of the oldest prayers in Scripture speaks directly to the anxious heart, and we need to rest in it for a while. Psalm 23, written by David, who was both a shepherd himself and someone who spent years running for his life, who knew real danger and real fear from both sides. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. That's how it starts, not with a wish or a hope, with a statement of fact. The Lord is, present tense, currently, right now, my shepherd, personal, specific, mine, and the immediate result of having the Lord as shepherd. I lack nothing, not I'll have enough someday, or I'm trying to reach a place where I won't lack. I lack nothing, right now, already, because of who my shepherd is, not because of what I have or achieve or accumulate. David continues, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. The shepherd makes the sheep lie down. Sometimes sheep need to be made to rest because they don't know when to stop. They'll graze until they're sick, wander until they're lost, keep going when they should stop. And the good shepherd knows this, so he makes them lie down. It's not a punishment. It's care. It's knowing what they need better than they know themselves. Green pastures, places where there's plenty of food, where the grass is lush and nourishing, not sparse, picked over ground where you have to work hard for every bite. Abundance, provision, enough and more than enough. Quiet waters, still pools, not rushing rivers or dangerous currents, places where a sheep can drink safely without fear of being swept away. Rest, peace, the meeting of need without threat, and the soul refreshing that comes from being in those places. Not just physical rest, though that's part of it, but soul rest. Deep down, bone-level restoration of something that was depleted and exhausted. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. There are many paths a sheep could take. Some lead to food and water and safety. Some lead to cliffs and thorns and danger. The sheep doesn't have the wisdom to know which is which. The sheep needs guidance, and the shepherd provides it, not randomly, not carelessly, but for his name's sake. His reputation is tied to the well-being of his flock. If his sheep thrive, everyone knows he's a good shepherd. So he guides carefully, intentionally, toward the right paths. And then David writes the verse that every anxious person needs tattooed on their soul. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Even though, not if, not when everything is fine. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, the valley of the shadow of death, some translations say, the places of real danger, real threat, real darkness. David isn't pretending those places don't exist. He's not claiming that following God means you'll never face anything scary or painful or potentially deadly. He's saying, even there, even in the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. Not because there is no evil, not because the valley isn't actually dark or dangerous, but because, and this is everything, you are with me. That's what makes fear loosen its grip, not the absence of darkness or danger, the presence of the shepherd in the darkness with you. You are with me, present, here, not watching from a safe distance, not waiting at the end of the valley for me to make it through alone, with me, in it, walking through it together. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The shepherd's tools, the rod for defending against predators, the staff for guiding and rescuing sheep who get stuck or lost, instruments of protection and care. And they comfort, not frighten, not intimidate, even though they could be used as weapons. They comfort because they represent the shepherd's ability and willingness to protect, to guide, to rescue. David keeps going. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. A table, a feast, provision and abundance and celebration, not in a safe place after all the enemies are gone, but in the presence of enemies. While the threats still exist, the shepherd sets up a table, makes a safe space, provides what's needed, right there in the midst of danger. The enemies haven't disappeared, the circumstances haven't been resolved, and yet, a table, rest, provision, peace that exists alongside threat, not just after threat is eliminated. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Anointing oil, used to heal wounds, to honor guests, to mark blessing. And a cup that doesn't just have enough in it, but overflows. Excess, abundance, more than what's minimally required. Generosity. And David ends with this. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Surely, not hopefully, not if I'm good enough, not if circumstances work out. Surely, certain, guaranteed. Goodness and love, not just one or the other, both, following me, pursuing me, chasing me down, all the days of my life, not just the good days, not just when I'm faithful or strong or anxiety-free. All the days. For you tonight, lying here in what might feel like a valley, maybe a dark one, maybe one where you can't see the way out. This psalm says you're not alone there. The presence that makes fear loosen isn't the absence of valleys. It's the shepherd who walks through valleys with you, who prepares tables in the presence of enemies, who anoints wounds and fills cups to overflowing, even when the circumstances haven't changed yet. Your anxiety might be pointing out every shadow in your valley, every possible danger, every reason to be afraid. And the psalm doesn't deny any of that. It just says, you are with me. That's the thing that changes everything. Not the valley disappearing, but presence in the valley. Protection in the presence of enemies. Comfort from the rod and staff. A table, somehow, impossibly, right here in the difficult place. We don't have to wait for the valley to end before we can rest. We don't have to eliminate every threat before we can stop being afraid. We just have to notice, even if we can only believe it a little bit, even if our anxiety screams that it's not true, that we're not walking through the darkness alone. The shepherd is here, in this valley, in this moment, with us. Feel the darkness around you now, not as threat, but as the quiet space where you can finally rest as the valley where the shepherd is with you, has always been with you, preparing a table even here, even now. Your breath is steady. You don't have to control it. You are not alone. Let that truth settle into your bones, into your breath, into the space between your anxious thoughts. You are with me. That's enough. That's everything. Let your body rest in that presence, even if your mind is still working to believe it. We move now to a crowded street in a town where a woman who has been afraid and alone for 12 years reaches out for the help she's almost given up hoping for. This is a story about desperation and shame, and the kind of courage it takes to reach for healing when you've been disappointed so many times before. The street is packed with people, bodies pressing in from all sides, everyone trying to get closer to Jesus, everyone hoping for something. You can smell the dust kicked up by hundreds of feet, mixed with sweat and bread from nearby vendors and the sharp scent of animals being led through the crowd. The noise is overwhelming, voices shouting, people calling out, the general chaos of too many humans in too small a space, everyone wanting something, needing something, hoping for a miracle. And somewhere in this crush of bodies, there's a woman who's been bleeding for 12 years. 12 years. That's not a metaphor or an exaggeration. That's 4,338 days of waking up with the same problem, the same exhaustion, the same hope slowly draining away. 12 years of being ceremonially unclean according to Jewish law, which means 12 years of not being allowed in the temple, not being allowed to touch or be touched, not being allowed to participate in normal life. 12 years of isolation and shame and being treated as contaminated. She's spent everything she has on doctors, every coin she earned or saved or borrowed, all of it gone to physicians who promised they could help and then couldn't or wouldn't. One treatment after another, each one raising hope and then crushing it. And the gospel tells us she hasn't gotten better. She's gotten worse. All that money, all that hope, all those years, and she's worse than when she started. You can see it in her face if you look closely. The particular exhaustion of someone who's been fighting a losing battle for too long. The way her body moves through the crowd carefully, trying not to bump into anyone because technically, she's not supposed to be here at all, not supposed to risk making others unclean by contact. The way her eyes are fixed on Jesus up ahead, this last desperate hope, this final attempt before she gives up completely. She's heard the stories. Everyone has. Jesus healing the sick, making the blind see, the lame walk, the deaf hear. Impossible things becoming possible. And something in her, some small, stubborn ember of hope that 12 years of disappointment hasn't quite extinguished, whispers that maybe, just maybe, if she could just touch his clothes, just the edge of his garment, she might be healed. So she pushes through the crowd. Each step forward requires courage because each step risks discovery, risks someone recognizing her, calling her out, exposing her as the unclean woman who shouldn't be here. Her heart is pounding, her hands are shaking. This is terrifying and necessary and probably foolish and completely essential all at once. She gets close, closer. She can see him now, just ahead. She reaches out her hand, trembling, desperate, full of a faith that's paper thin but still there, still reaching. Her fingers touch the edge of his robe, just the fringe, just the smallest contact, and immediately, that word again, immediately she feels it. She knows in her body that something has changed. The bleeding stops, just stops. After 12 years of constant flow, of exhaustion and iron deficiency and weakness, Suddenly her body is whole. The healing isn't gradual or partial. It's instant and complete. She knows in that moment that she's healed. But Jesus stops walking. In the middle of this pressing crowd, with everyone touching him from all sides, he stops and asks, "Who touched me?" The disciples think he's being ridiculous. "The people are crowding and pressing against you," they say, basically. "Everyone's touching you. What kind of question is that?" But Jesus knows the difference between the casual contact of a crowd and the deliberate, faith-filled touch of someone reaching for healing. He felt power go out from him. He knows someone touched him with intention, with need, with the specific hope that contact with him would change everything. The woman realizes she's been found out. She can't hide. She can't slip away unnoticed like she'd hoped. She comes forward, falling at his feet, terrified, probably expecting judgment or rebuke, or at minimum public exposure of her shame. She tells him the whole truth, 12 years, all the doctors, the hemorrhaging, the touch, the immediate healing, everything. And Jesus speaks to her with such tenderness, it must have broken something open in her chest. "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Daughter, not woman or unclean one or any of the labels she's carried for 12 years. Daughter, belonging, family, acceptance. He claims her as his own, right there in front of everyone. Your faith has healed you, not faith that was strong or perfect or theologically correct, just faith that reached out, faith that touched, faith that said, maybe, possibly, I don't know, but I have to try. Go in peace. After 12 years of anxiety and fear and shame and exhaustion, go in peace and be freed, not just from the physical bleeding, but from your suffering, all of it, the isolation, the shame, the fear, the hopelessness. Freed. If your anxiety has made you feel untouchable, unworthy, like you're too much of a mess for God to want to deal with, if you feel contaminated by your worry, disqualified by your fear, like you should have your life more together before you reach out for help, hear Jesus call you daughter. Hear him call you son. Your desperate reaching out in the dark faith is enough. You don't need impressive spirituality or deep theology or perfect trust. You just need to reach, even if your hand is shaking, even if you're not sure it will work, even if you're terrified of being seen and exposed and judged. The reaching is the faith. The touch is the prayer. And Jesus feels it. He stops for it. He turns around and calls you daughter, calls you son, and sends you in peace. Not because you've earned it, or because your faith was particularly strong, but because you reached. That's all. You reached, and he was already there, already available to be touched, already willing to let power flow out toward your need. We lie here tonight, reaching. Maybe it feels like too little, too weak, too doubt-filled to count as faith. But we're reaching anyway, and that's what Jesus called faith when he saw it in that woman. We don't have to have it all figured out. We don't have to be clean or whole or acceptable before we reach. We just reach, trembling and desperate and hoping against hope, and discover he was already within reach all along. Notice any tension you're holding in your core, in your belly. That's where we often store shame and fear, and the anxiety of not being enough. Let it soften now. You don't have to be afraid of being seen. You've been called daughter. You've been called son. Let your breath move into that space that's been tight for so long, bringing ease, bringing the beginning of peace. You're allowed to be freed. Jesus said so. In a moment that reveals Jesus' heart more clearly than 100 sermons, children are brought to him, and the disciples try to send them away. This is about anxiety and access and who gets to come close to Jesus without earning it first. It's late afternoon maybe. The light is golden and soft. The day's teaching is winding down, and Jesus has been talking with adults all day, explaining complex ideas, answering challenging questions, dealing with religious leaders who want to trap him in contradictions. It's been intellectually and emotionally demanding. Anyone would be tired. And now some parents are approaching with their children, young ones probably, toddlers on hips, small hands gripping their mother's robes, maybe some babies wrapped and sleeping against their parents' chests. The parents' faces are hopeful, eager. They've heard about this teacher, this healer, and they want him to bless their children, just to touch them, to pray over them, to maybe lay his hands on them and speak a blessing. It's a normal thing to want. Every parent's desire for their child to be seen by someone holy, to receive a benediction, to be marked in some small way by divine favor. But the disciples intercept them. You can almost hear the dismissive tone. Not now. He's tired. He doesn't have time for children. Can't you see? He's been dealing with important matters all day. Come back another time. Or better yet, the children don't really need this. They don't understand anyway. This is for adults, for serious seekers, for people who can actually comprehend the teaching. The parents probably start to retreat, apologizing, gathering their children, feeling foolish for presuming. Maybe the children sense the rejection, start to fuss or cry. There's disappointment in the air, the shame of being turned away, of having bothered someone important with something that apparently doesn't matter. And Jesus sees it happening. He watches his disciples dismiss these parents and children, and the gospel says he's indignant, not annoyed, not mildly irritated, indignant, upset on behalf of the children, angry at the gatekeeping, bothered by this attitude that some people, small people, young people, people who can't offer anything in return, shouldn't have access to him. He rebukes his own disciples. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Let them come. Don't hinder. Don't block. Don't create barriers. Don't decide on my behalf who gets access to me. The kingdom of God belongs to people like these children, people who don't have credentials or impressive faith or deep theological understanding, people who just come because their parents brought them, who don't have anything to offer except their presence, who can't earn or achieve or prove their worthiness. And then Jesus does something that undoes all the disciples' gatekeeping in one gesture. He takes the children in his arms, not just tolerates them or pats them on the head from a distance, takes them in his arms, pulls them close, holds them against his chest where they can feel his heartbeat, where they can smell the dust on his robes and the warmth of his skin, where they're completely safe and completely welcome. He places his hands on them and blesses them, each one, speaking words over them that they probably won't remember, but that mark them anyway. These children don't do anything to deserve it. They don't demonstrate faith or understanding or spiritual maturity. Some of them might be squirming, wanting down. Some might be crying. Some might be more interested in a bug on the ground than in the blessing being spoken over them. It doesn't matter. Jesus holds them and blesses them anyway, not because of what they bring, but simply because they came. You can see it in the parents' faces, tears probably, relief and joy, and the deep satisfaction of seeing your child held by someone who actually cares, who doesn't see them as a burden or an interruption. The children themselves might not fully grasp what's happening, but they'll remember. Not the words, but the feeling. The feeling of being held, being wanted, being welcome without having to do anything to earn it. Tonight, if your anxiety is telling you that you need to have it all together before you can come to God, that you need to be spiritually mature or emotionally stable, or less of a mess before you're allowed to approach, remember this scene. The children didn't have impressive faith. They didn't have any faith, really. At least not the kind we usually mean when we use that word. They just showed up because someone brought them. Just like you showed up here tonight because some part of you still hopes that maybe, possibly, there's rest available. And Jesus took them in his arms. Not because they earned it, not because they were spiritually advanced, not because they had their anxiety managed or their doubts resolved or their lives in order, just because they came, just because they were there. That was enough. Their presence was enough. Their just showing up was enough. The disciples thought these children were wasting Jesus' time. Jesus said the kingdom belongs to people like them. The disciples thought they needed to protect Jesus from unnecessary interruptions. Jesus said, "Let them come to me." The disciples created barriers. Jesus opened his arms. For you, lying here tonight, this is the invitation. You don't have to be impressive. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to have your spiritual life polished or your emotional state stable. You don't have to stop being anxious before you're allowed to be held. You can just come, tired, worried, not having it together, maybe even a little bit of a mess. And that's exactly what Jesus invited. That's exactly who he takes in his arms. We don't have to prove ourselves tonight. We don't have to demonstrate that we're worthy of rest or that we've earned the right to be here. We can just be like those children, brought by hope or desperation or habit, or the faintest whisper that maybe we're wanted, and discover that showing up is the only qualification needed. The kingdom belongs to people like us, people who come without credentials, people who might not even fully understand what's happening, but who still reach out for blessing. Imagine for a moment, just for a moment, even if it feels impossible, that you're being held the way Jesus held those children, safe, wanted, blessed without having to earn it. Your anxiety doesn't disqualify you. Your worry doesn't make you too much. Your exhaustion doesn't make you a burden. You're just held. Let your body remember what it feels like to be small and cared for, to be lifted up rather than having to hold yourself up. Feel the relief of not having to prove anything just for these quiet hours. You're already welcome. You've always been welcome. On Jesus' last night with his disciples before his death, he knows they're about to face the worst fear of their lives. And into that knowing, into the heaviness of goodbye and the shadow of what's coming, he speaks words about peace that sound almost impossible given the circumstances. They're gathered in an upper room somewhere in Jerusalem. It's night. There are oil lamps flickering, casting moving shadows on the walls. The smell of bread and wine still hangs in the air from the meal they've just shared. That last meal, though they don't fully understand yet that it's a last meal. Jesus has washed their feet, that intimate, humble act of service that left them confused and uncomfortable. He's spoken about betrayal and denial, and going away. The mood is heavy, confused, afraid. The disciples are trying to understand what's happening. They can sense something ending, something shifting, even if they can't articulate it. Jesus keeps talking about leaving, about going somewhere they can't follow yet, about his Father's house and preparing a place for them. It's beautiful language, but it's also goodbye language. And goodbyes are hard, even when you don't know what's coming next. And they don't know yet. Can't imagine just how bad it's about to get. In a few hours, armed men will come to arrest Jesus in a garden. Peter will swing a sword in panic and then run away in shame. Jesus will be beaten, mocked, spat upon, put through multiple trials that are mockeries of justice. He'll carry a cross through streets where people who cheered him days ago will now scream for his death. He'll be nailed to that cross and left to suffocate slowly while his mother watches. The disciples will scatter in terror, hiding behind locked doors, convinced they're next, sure that everything they'd hoped for is over. Jesus knows all of this. He knows the fear that's coming for them, the grief, the confusion, the sense that God himself has abandoned them. He knows they're hours away from the worst trauma of their lives, and into that knowledge he says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." Peace. In the shadow of crucifixion, he's talking about peace, not as something that will exist after the hard thing is over, not as a reward for getting through suffering, but as something he's giving them now, in advance, to carry with them through what's coming. My peace, he says. Not the world's peace, which is fragile and circumstance dependent, which exists only when things are going well and disappears the moment trouble arrives. Not the peace that comes from everything being okay, from danger being eliminated, from circumstances being comfortable. His peace. The peace that he has and is and offers. A peace that can exist alongside suffering, that can be present in the middle of horror, that doesn't require the absence of hard things in order to be real. And then he tells them, commands them even, "Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." As if it's a choice. As if in the middle of the worst circumstances, in the face of real danger and real grief, they can somehow choose not to let their hearts be troubled. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? How do you not let your heart be troubled when everything you hoped for is being ripped away? How do you not be afraid when there's real reason to fear? It seems like an unreasonable ask, an unfair expectation. But maybe, just maybe, Jesus isn't saying don't feel troubled or don't experience fear. Maybe he's saying, don't let those things have the final word. Don't let trouble and fear be the deepest truth about you. In the midst of them, there's also this, my peace. And it's strong enough to hold you even when your heart is breaking and your body is shaking with fear. The peace he's describing isn't the absence of hard things. It's not denial of danger, or pretending grief isn't real, or spiritualizing away genuine suffering. It's a peace that's been with him through everything, that will sustain him even through crucifixion, that will somehow, impossibly, be available to his terrified, scattered disciples even in their darkest hours. Think about what that means. In the garden when he's arrested, there can be peace. In the trial when lies are being told, there can be peace. When Peter denies him 3 times, there can be peace. At the foot of the cross, watching him die, there can be peace. Not because those things aren't terrible, but because his peace isn't dependent on circumstances being bearable. For you tonight, lying here with whatever anxiety is making your heart troubled, whatever fear is keeping you awake, the peace Jesus is offering isn't contingent on your problems being solved. It's not waiting on the other side of your anxiety being resolved. It's available now, in the middle of the trouble, alongside the fear. The world's peace says, "I'll give you peace when your circumstances improve, when the threat is removed, when everything is okay again." Jesus' peace says, "I'll give you peace right now, in this, through this, regardless of whether this gets easier or goes away." That's why he emphasizes my peace, because it's a different kind of peace than what we usually mean by that word. It's peace that held him as he walked toward the cross, peace that sustained him through betrayal and abandonment, peace that didn't break even when his body did, and he's giving it, present tense, active offer, to his disciples then and to us now. We don't have to wait for our circumstances to change before we can access this peace. We don't have to solve our anxiety or eliminate our fears or get everything under control first. We can receive it now, troubled as we are, afraid as we are, in the middle of whatever hard thing we're facing. The peace is being offered, not as something we create or earn or achieve, but as something we're given, like a gift, like grace. As you breathe right now, imagine breathing in that peace, not as something you have to work for or figure out, but as something that's being offered freely, in through your nose, receiving, out through your mouth, releasing, in, the peace that transcends understanding, out, the trouble that's been sitting on your chest. You don't have to understand how this works. You don't have to feel peaceful to receive peace. Just breathe and let something you didn't create begin to settle into the spaces anxiety has been filling. Let it be given rather than achieved. The Apostle Peter, who knew anxiety firsthand, who denied Jesus 3 times out of fear, who sank while walking on water when he noticed the wind, writes a letter to people who are scared and scattered. And in it, he gives them one simple instruction that every anxious person lying awake at night needs to hear. Picture the early Christians receiving this letter. It's being read aloud in a house somewhere, maybe after dark when it's safer to gather. These are people facing persecution, uncertainty, the daily anxiety of trying to survive in a culture that's hostile to their faith. Some have lost jobs, some have lost homes, some have lost family members who couldn't understand why they'd follow this crucified Jewish teacher. They're anxious about the future, about their safety, about their children, about whether this whole thing is sustainable, or if they've made a terrible mistake. They're living with the kind of anxiety that has real external causes. This isn't just internal worry with no basis in reality. These are people facing actual threats, actual losses, actual dangers. Their fear isn't irrational. It's grounded in very real circumstances that could genuinely harm them. And Peter, who understands fear because he's failed spectacularly because of it, who knows what it's like to let anxiety override everything else, writes them this: cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast. That's an interesting word choice. Not manage, not process, not work through, not overcome. Cast, as in throw, hurl, release with force. Get it away from you. Don't try to carry it more efficiently or hold it more gracefully. Just cast it. Chuck it. Throw it somewhere else. All your anxiety. Not the acceptable anxieties or the ones that seem reasonable or the ones you feel justified in having. All of it. The big existential fears and the small daily worries, the rational concerns and the spiraling what-ifs, the anxiety about things you can control and the anxiety about things you absolutely cannot control. All of it, every ounce, every thread, cast it. On him, on God, not into the void, not just away from you with no destination. on him. Transfer it. Make it his to carry instead of yours. Give him the weight that's been crushing your chest and making your hands shake and keeping you awake at 3 a.m. And the reason this is crucial, the reason you can do this, the reason it's allowed, the reason it's not presumptuous or selfish or too much to ask, because he cares for you. He cares. Present tense. Currently. Right now. Your anxiety isn't a burden to him. Your worry doesn't exhaust his patience. Your fear doesn't make him roll his eyes and think, "Not this again." He cares. Your internal suffering matters to him. The storm in your mind registers on his radar. He's not too busy with universe-level concerns to pay attention to your personal, small-seeming anxieties. Peter isn't saying, "Cast your anxiety on God and he'll make all your problems disappear." He's not promising that the circumstances causing your anxiety will instantly change. He's saying that the weight of worrying about those circumstances doesn't have to sit on you. You can transfer it. You can cast it somewhere else, onto someone else who has the capacity to hold it without being crushed by it. Think about that, practically for a moment. When you're carrying anxiety, it takes up space in your body. Your shoulders tense, your jaw clenches, your stomach tightens, your chest constricts, your breath becomes shallow, your mind races. You can feel the physical weight of worry, even though worry itself doesn't actually weigh anything. Peter is saying you can set that down. Not forever necessarily. Not in the sense that you'll never pick it up again. But right now, tonight, in this moment, you can cast it onto God and let him hold it for a while. You can practice releasing the grip you have on your anxiety, loosening the clench, opening the fist that's been holding worry so tightly. And the reason this is possible, the reason this isn't just positive thinking or wishful hoping, is because God actually cares. Your anxiety matters to him. Not because it's valid or rational or justified, though it might be all those things. Not because you've earned his care or because you're handling it well. You might not be. It matters to him simply because it's happening to you and you matter to him. For you tonight, lying here with whatever specific anxieties have been cycling through your mind, this is permission to practice what Peter's describing. You don't have to figure out how to manage your anxiety better, or how to think yourself out of it, or how to be stronger in the face of it. You can just cast it, just release it. Just say, out loud if you want to, or just in the privacy of your own mind, "I'm giving this to you. I'm setting this down. I'm letting you carry this for tonight." It might feel strange at first. Your mind might immediately try to pick it back up because that's what minds do with familiar burdens. But you can keep practicing the release. Keep noticing when you've picked it back up and keep setting it down again. Cast, notice. Cast again. It's not a one-time thing. It's a practice, a rhythm, a returning again and again to the truth that you don't have to be the only one holding this. Whatever you've been carrying that's kept you awake, the worry about money, about health, about relationships, about work, about the future, about whether you're doing anything right, about whether you'll be okay. Imagine taking all of that worry and setting it down outside of your body, not denying it's real, not pretending it doesn't matter, just acknowledging that carrying it all night doesn't actually help anything, and God is bigger than your nervous system and he can handle the weight. With your next exhale, imagine releasing just a little bit of the tension this anxiety has been creating in your body. Not all of it at once. That might be too much. Just a little. Feel your shoulders drop slightly. Feel your jaw unclench by a fraction. You don't have to carry it all through the night. You're allowed to cast it, to throw it onto the one who cares enough to catch it and hold it while you rest. Jesus circles back to his teaching about God's intimate care with two images that are so specific, so detailed, that they show just how closely God pays attention to the smallest things. This is about anxiety that whispers you're insignificant, overlooked, not worth noticing in the grand scheme of things. He's still teaching, maybe still on that hillside or maybe in another setting, talking to people who feel small and powerless and afraid they don't matter. The Roman Empire looms over them, vast, powerful, indifferent to individual suffering. Their lives feel precarious, temporary, easily snuffed out. They're worried about survival, about whether anyone sees them, about whether their existence registers anywhere beyond their immediate circle of family and friends. And Jesus talks about sparrows, common sparrows, the most unremarkable birds imaginable. You can buy 2 of them for a penny, he says, literally the cheapest purchase you could make in the marketplace. They're everywhere, these little brown birds. Nobody writes poems about sparrows. Nobody stops to admire their beauty. They're just there, part of the background noise of daily life, so common and ordinary that most people don't even notice them. But Jesus says, and this is remarkable, not one of them falls to the ground outside your Father's care. Not one. Not a single sparrow dies without the Father knowing, without it registering, without it mattering. These birds that humans consider nearly worthless, that cost almost nothing, that nobody pays attention to, God sees every single one. When they fall, he knows. Think about the implications of that. If God's attention is so detailed, so comprehensive, so intimate, that he's aware of every sparrow that falls, every one of the millions and millions of sparrows that live and die largely unnoticed by humans, then how much more does he notice you? How much more does your life register, your suffering matter, your anxiety count as something worth attending to? And then Jesus goes even smaller, even more specific, even more intimate and personal and impossible to comprehend. The very hairs on your head are all numbered. All of them. Every single hair. Not just God knows approximately how much hair you have, or God could count them if he wanted to. They are numbered. Present tense. God has kept track. He knows exactly how many there are. When you lose one, when a new one grows in, the count changes, and he knows the new number. That's how closely he's paying attention. That's how detailed his awareness of you is. You can't even count your own hairs, not really. You could try, but you'd lose track, miss some, count some twice, and they're changing all the time anyway. Falling out, growing in. You don't have the capacity to keep that accurate account of something so small and numerous and constantly changing. But God does. God knows. The creator of the universe, who holds galaxies in his hand, who spoke stars into existence, who manages the vast complexity of all creation. He also knows exactly how many hairs are on your head right this moment. He's paying attention at both cosmic and intimate scales simultaneously. Why does Jesus bring this up? Why does he talk about sparrows and hairs when he's addressing anxiety? Because anxiety often whispers that you're too small to matter, that your problems are too insignificant for God to care about, that he's busy with wars and disasters and big important world-changing events, and your personal worries about your job, your relationship, your health, your child, your finances are too petty to register on his radar. And Jesus is systematically demolishing that lie. If God notices every sparrow, birds so common and cheap that 2 cost a penny. He notices you. If God numbers every hair on your head, knows you in that kind of granular, impossible detail, then He certainly knows about the thing keeping you awake tonight. Your anxiety isn't too small for Him. Your worry isn't beneath His notice. You're not invisible or forgotten or overlooked. Jesus concludes, "So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows." It's almost an understatement. You're worth infinitely more. You're made in God's image. You're loved with an eternal love. You're known in every detail, not just your hairs, but your thoughts, your fears, your hopes, your heartbreaks. All of it matters. All of you matters. Your anxiety might be whispering right now that you're on your own, that your problems are too trivial for God to bother with, that He's got bigger things to worry about. But Jesus is saying, the God who notices sparrows falling notices you. The God who numbers hairs knows exactly what you're carrying. You're not too small. Your concerns aren't too petty. You're seen. You're known. You're worth more than you can imagine. For you tonight, this means that the thing you're anxious about, even if it feels small or silly, or like you shouldn't be this worried about it, matters to God. Not because it's objectively important in some cosmic sense, but because it's happening to you, and you matter to God. Your small anxiety about a conversation tomorrow matters. Your worry about whether you're doing parenting right matters. Your concern about that small health symptom matters. Your fear about money running out matters. All of it. Because you matter. Because you're noticed. Because you're known down to the number of hairs on your head. We can rest in that tonight. Not because our problems are solved or our circumstances have changed, but because we're not invisible. We're not forgotten. We're not too insignificant for God to care about. We're seen with the kind of attention that notices sparrows and numbers hairs. That's how much we matter. That's how known we are. Notice the small things about your body right now. The temperature of your skin where it touches the pillow. The weight of your eyelids. Are they heavy, or are you holding them? The rhythm of your pulse if you can feel it. These small, specific details of your body in this moment, God knows all of them. You're known in the smallest, most intimate details. You can rest in that knowing, in that being seen, in that mattering more than sparrows. Let your body settle into being known, being noticed, being worth infinitely more than you fear you are. Paul, writing from prison, gives the church at Philippi a practice for handling anxiety that sounds almost impossible until you understand what he's really saying. This is about what to do with worry when it won't stop, when it keeps cycling through your mind like a song you can't turn off. Picture Paul chained to a Roman guard in a dark cell. The floor is cold stone. The air smells of damp and unwashed bodies and the particular staleness of places where no fresh air circulates. He can hear other prisoners, some crying, some ranting, some silent in a way that's worse than noise. His wrists are raw where the chains rub. He doesn't know when or if he'll be released. This isn't metaphorical imprisonment. This is actual captivity, actual danger, actual uncertainty about whether he'll live or die. And from this place, from literal chains, from genuine peril, from a situation that gives him every reason to be anxious, he writes to the church about not being anxious, which would be almost offensive if it weren't coming from someone who's living it, who's not giving advice from a place of comfort and safety, but from the middle of his own suffering. The church at Philippi receives his letter and gathers to hear it read aloud. They're anxious too, about Paul, about their own future, about persecution that's starting to intensify, about whether this whole movement will survive or be crushed by Rome. They're worried about practical things, how to provide for families when following Jesus costs you your job, how to keep children safe when being a Christian makes you a target, how to hold on to hope when everything feels increasingly precarious. And Paul writes, "Do not be anxious about anything." Anything. Not, don't be anxious about trivial things, or try to worry less, or manage your anxiety better. Do not be anxious about anything, which sounds impossible, which sounds like a command that sets you up to fail because anxiety isn't something you can just decide not to feel. But then, Paul gives us something to do instead of being anxious. Not a technique to eliminate anxiety, but a practice to redirect it. In every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. In every situation, not just the big crises, not just when you've exhausted all other options. Every situation, every worry, every fear, every anxious thought that cycles through your mind at 3 a.m, take it, all of it, and present it to God by prayer and petition. Talk to God about it, not in formal, perfect language, not with eloquence or theological precision. Just talk. Tell him what you're worried about. Name the fears. Describe the what-ifs. Lay out the worst-case scenarios that keep you awake. Don't pretend you're fine. Don't spiritualize it or make it more acceptable. Just present it, raw, messy, honest, with thanksgiving. This is interesting. Not, after you stop being anxious, then be thankful, with thanksgiving, alongside the anxiety, mixed in with the worry. Thanksgiving doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging that even in the middle of this fear, even in the midst of this uncertainty, there are things that are still true. God hasn't abandoned you. You've made it through hard things before. You're still breathing. There's still something, however small, to be grateful for. Present your requests. Tell God what you need. Be specific. Not, help me not worry, in some vague, general way, but I need provision for this specific bill. I need wisdom about this particular decision. I need courage to face this exact situation tomorrow. Concrete requests about real needs. And then, this is the promise. The peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. The peace of God, not the peace you create by thinking positively or managing your thoughts better. God's peace, the peace that He has and is, peace that transcends all understanding, which means it doesn't make sense. It's not logical. Your circumstances might not change. Your problems might not get solved. The threats might still be real. And yet, peace. Peace that doesn't depend on everything being okay. Peace that exists alongside difficulty, not just after difficulty ends. This peace will guard your hearts and minds. Guard, like a soldier standing watch, protecting something valuable. Your heart doesn't have to be defenseless against anxiety. Your mind doesn't have to be overrun by worry. There's something, someone, standing guard, keeping watch, protecting you from being consumed by fear, even when fear has good reasons to exist. Notice Paul isn't saying pray and your anxiety will disappear. He's saying pray and you'll receive peace that guards you in the midst of anxiety. The circumstances might not change, but something in you, something deeper than your racing thoughts, will be protected, held, kept safe. For you tonight, this is both permission and practice. Permission to bring your anxiety to God without cleaning it up first without resolving it on your own, without waiting until you're less worried. And practice the actual doing of presenting your requests, naming your fears, speaking your needs out loud or in the silence of your own mind. You've already started this practice by being here. You came with your anxiety. You didn't try to fix it before showing up. You let yourself be here, in the mess of worry and exhaustion and fear. That's the presenting Paul is talking about. That's the prayer. That's bringing your requests, the request for rest, for peace, for someone to hold what you can't hold anymore. And the peace Paul describes isn't a peace that makes sense. It transcends understanding. Your logical mind might still be listing all the reasons to worry. Your anxiety might still be running through scenarios, but underneath that, deeper than that, there can be peace. Not peace that denies the worry, but peace that's strong enough to exist alongside it, that guards your heart even when your mind is racing. We don't have to understand how this works. We don't have to feel peaceful before we can receive peace. We just keep presenting this worry, this fear, this specific thing keeping us awake, and trusting that the peace that transcends understanding is doing its quiet work of guarding us whether we can feel it yet or not. Let that peace begin its work of guarding your heart right now. You don't have to fight your anxious thoughts or push them away. Just notice them, and underneath them, imagine a guard standing watch, God's peace protecting something in you that anxiety can't reach. Your mind can race if it needs to, but your body can still rest. Feel your chest. Is it tight? See if you can let it soften just slightly, making space for the peace that guards, for the calm that doesn't require understanding. You're being protected even when you don't feel protected. Let your breathing be evidence of that, in and out, steady and sure, proof that you're being held even in the worry. We need to talk about the night Jesus himself felt crushing anxiety, because if you've ever felt guilty for being anxious, this story will undo that lie. This is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, hours before his crucifixion, in the grip of fear so intense, his body manifested it physically. It's night, late, the kind of dark that feels heavy, oppressive. Jesus has taken his closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, to a garden they've been to before, a place with olive trees and quiet corners, a place where you can be alone, even though Jerusalem is nearby and full of Passover pilgrims. He needs to pray. He needs to be away from crowds, from demands, from the performance of public ministry. He needs space to face what's coming. But he doesn't go alone into the deepest part of the garden. He brings his 3 closest friends. He tells them, with a vulnerability that must have shocked them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." My soul is overwhelmed. Jesus saying this. Jesus admitting that what he's facing is crushing him, that the weight of it has brought him to the edge of what a human soul can bear. To the point of death, not hyperbole, not exaggeration. He's describing a level of anguish that feels lethal, that's pressing on his very ability to continue existing. And he asks them to stay, to keep watch, not to fix anything or solve anything or make it better, just to be there. To be awake while he wrestles with this, to bear witness to his suffering. It's such a human need. Don't leave me alone in this. I need you to be near me even though there's nothing you can do to help. He goes a little farther, maybe a stone's throw away, and falls face down on the ground, not kneeling in peaceful contemplation. Face down, prostrate. The position of complete desperation and surrender. His body can't hold itself upright anymore. He collapses under the weight of what he's facing, and he prays, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." If it is possible. He's not pretending to be calm. He's not spiritualizing his fear away. He's asking, begging for a way out. This cup, the metaphor everyone understood. The cup of God's wrath, the suffering that's coming, the separation from the Father that will happen when he takes on humanity's sin. He doesn't want to drink it. He wants it removed. He wants another option. He's honest about that. Completely honest. May this cup be taken from me. Let there be another way. Let me not have to go through this. The request is direct, desperate, human. He feels what we all feel when facing something terrible. I don't want to do this. Please don't make me do this. There has to be another way. But then, and this is the surrender that saves the world, yet not as I will, but as you will. Not my will, but yours. Even though I'm terrified, even though I'm asking for this to be taken away, even though every part of my humanity is screaming for escape, not my will, yours. I'll trust you, even when trusting costs me everything. The Gospel of Luke adds a detail that's almost unbearable. Jesus is in such anguish that his sweat becomes like drops of blood. This is a real medical phenomenon, hematidrosis, that can occur under extreme stress when tiny blood vessels near sweat glands rupture. Jesus' anxiety, his fear, his dread of what's coming is so intense that his body is manifesting it in blood. This is God in human flesh experiencing anxiety so crushing that it's physically breaking him. This is the one Christians call Lord and Savior, and he's sweating blood from fear. And God doesn't take the cup away, doesn't provide an escape route, doesn't remove the hard thing. Instead, and this is important, he sends an angel to strengthen Jesus, not to rescue him, not to change the circumstances, but to give him strength to walk through what has to be walked through. Jesus goes back to his disciples 3 times, seeking their presence, their solidarity, their wakeful companionship. And 3 times he finds them sleeping. They can't stay awake with him. They try, but exhaustion and probably their own anxiety overwhelms them, and they keep drifting off, leaving Jesus alone in his agony. He's gentle with them about it. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But there's still the loneliness of it. The reality that even our closest people can't always show up for us the way we need them to. Not because they don't care, but because they're human and limited and struggling with their own things. And Jesus goes back to prayer. The same prayer. The same honest plea for another way. The same surrender to the Father's will, even though surrender is costing him everything. Over and over, wrestling with it. Not pretending it's easy. Not spiritually bypassing the horror of what he's facing. If you've ever felt guilty for being anxious, look at Jesus in this garden. If you've ever thought that real faith means not being afraid, look at Jesus sweating blood from fear. If you've ever believed that you should be stronger, should trust more, should handle things better, look at the Son of God collapsing face down and begging for the cup to be taken away. Your anxiety doesn't make you weak. Your fear doesn't mean your faith is insufficient. Your honest admission that you don't want to face the hard thing, that you want a way out, that you're overwhelmed, that you need help, that doesn't disqualify you from being faithful. Jesus felt all of that. Jesus expressed all of that. Jesus' body manifested his anxiety in the most visceral way possible. And God didn't condemn him for it. God didn't tell him to have more faith or trust more or stop being so emotional. God sent strength, not removal of the trial, but presence in the trial. Not escape from suffering, but companionship through suffering. For you tonight, this means you don't have to be ashamed of your anxiety. You don't have to pretend you're not afraid. You don't have to spiritualize your fear away or feel guilty that you're not handling things with more grace. Jesus understands because he's been there. He knows what it's like when your body manifests your fear. He knows what it's like to beg God for another way. He knows what it's like to need people to just stay awake with you and have them fall asleep instead. He knows, and he's not disappointed in you. He's not standing at a distance thinking you should be stronger. He's the one who sweated blood in a garden, who fell face down in desperate prayer, who asked 3 times for the cup to be taken away. He gets it, all of it. We lie here tonight in our own Gethsemanes, facing our own cups we don't want to drink, carrying our own anxieties that feel crushing, wishing there was another way. And we're in the company of Jesus, who did this first, who understands completely, who knows what it costs to say, "Not my will, but yours," when your whole body is screaming for escape. You don't have to be ashamed of how your body is responding to your anxiety tonight. The tension in your muscles, the tightness in your chest, the racing of your mind. Jesus' body responded to his fear too. He understands. Let your body just be honest about what it's feeling, without judgment, without shame. Feel the weight of your anxiety, and also feel that you're not alone in it. Jesus has been in this garden before you. He knows what these olive trees look like, what this darkness feels like, what it costs to face the cup. You're not alone here. You've never been alone here. After Jesus rises from the dead, his disciples are locked in a room, paralyzed by fear. And the first words out of his resurrected mouth speak directly to the anxious heart that thinks fear means failure. Evening. Probably Saturday evening, the day after the crucifixion, though John's Gospel places this on Resurrection Sunday. Either way, it's soon after the most traumatic event these men have ever experienced. They watched their teacher, their friend, their hope, their future, get arrested, beaten, mocked, and nailed to a cross. They watched him die, slowly, horribly, while they hid, unable to help, too afraid to even stand nearby except for John. And now they're in a house somewhere in Jerusalem, and the doors are locked, bolted, barred, not just closed, secured against intrusion because they're terrified the authorities will come for them next. If they killed Jesus, why wouldn't they round up his followers? The disciples are traumatized, grief-stricken, and convinced that staying hidden is their only chance of survival. The room probably smells of fear sweat and unwashed bodies. No one's had the mental space or energy to care about such things. There's the remains of a meal someone tried to get them to eat, food that's been mostly ignored because who can eat when your whole world has ended? The atmosphere is thick with grief and terror, and the particular heaviness that comes when you can't see any way forward. Some of them are crying, some are staring at nothing, some are probably arguing about what to do next. Stay hidden? Leave Jerusalem? Go back to their old lives and pretend this whole thing never happened? There's no good answer. Every option feels impossible. And then suddenly, without the doors opening, without any warning, without following any natural law, Jesus is standing in the middle of the room. Imagine the shock, the confusion, the terror that maybe this is some kind of punishment or ghost or hallucination brought on by trauma and grief. They've been living in fear, and now this impossible thing is happening, and their first reaction is probably more fear, not comfort. And Jesus speaks. His first words to his traumatized, terrified, faith-shattered friends: "Peace be with you." Not, "Why did you abandon me?" Not, "Where were you when I needed you?" Not, "Your fear failed me." Just, "Peace be with you." The first thing he wants them to know is that he's not angry. He's not disappointed. He's not here to rebuke them for running away or falling asleep in the garden or denying him. He's here to give them peace. Peace be with you. In Hebrew, shalom aleichem, not just absence of conflict, but wholeness, completeness, everything being okay between us, everything being okay in you. He's offering them what they desperately need and probably don't think they deserve. Peace after failure, peace after betrayal, peace after fear made them abandon him. Then he shows them his hands and his side, the wounds, the proof that he really died, that this isn't a dream or a vision or wishful thinking. He's real. This is really him. The same Jesus they saw crucified is now standing here alive, and he's showing them his scars not to shame them. Look what your cowardice cost me, but to reassure them. It's really me. I'm really here. Death didn't win. The disciples' faces probably shift from terror to joy, from confusion to wonder, hope beginning to crack through the trauma. Could this possibly be real? Could he actually be alive? Could there still be a future after watching him die? And Jesus says it again, "Peace be with you." Twice. He says it twice. Because once isn't enough. Because they need to hear it again. Because peace isn't something you receive and then have forever. It's something you need to keep receiving, keep accepting, keep letting settle into the traumatized places. Then he does something extraordinary. He breathes on them and says, "Receive the Holy Spirit." He's giving them something they couldn't manufacture for themselves. Actual presence, actual peace, actual power to move forward. He's breathing life into people who've been dead inside since Friday afternoon, who've been locked in this room not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Tonight, as you lie here in your own kind of locked room, locked in by anxiety, by fear, by the sense that you've failed or let God down or aren't enough, imagine Jesus standing in the room with you, not waiting outside until you unlock the door and clean yourself up and get your act together. Standing inside somehow, impossibly, the way he stood in that locked room with his disciples, and hear him speak the same words over your anxious heart that he spoke over theirs. Peace be with you. Not, you shouldn't be anxious, or you should have trusted more, or why are you afraid? Just peace. He's not disappointed in you for being locked in by fear. He's not frustrated with you for not being stronger. He's offering you the very thing you need most. Peace that comes from outside yourself. Peace you couldn't create on your own. Peace that's given as a gift rather than earned as a reward. And he's showing you his hands and his side, the wounds that prove he knows what suffering is, that he's been through the worst thing and come out the other side, that death itself couldn't hold him. Your anxiety doesn't have the final word. Your fear doesn't get to write the ending. The one who defeated death is standing in your locked room, offering peace. We don't have to unlock the door before he can come in. We don't have to stop being afraid before we can receive peace. He's already here, already speaking peace over us, already breathing presence into the traumatized, anxious places that have been locked down tight trying to stay safe. Receive what he's offering, not by feeling peaceful. You might not feel peaceful yet, but by breathing, which is what he did with his disciples. Breathe in slowly, receiving. Imagine it's not just air, but the Holy Spirit, the presence of the resurrected Christ, the peace that exists even in locked rooms. Out slowly, releasing the fear that's been gripping you so tightly. In, peace be with you. Out, letting go. Again, in, presence. Out, fear. You don't have to make this happen. Just breathe and receive what's being given, what's already here, what's already being spoken over you, whether you can fully feel it yet or not. Back on that hillside in Galilee, Jesus is finishing his teaching about anxiety with one clear instruction that reorders everything else. This is about what to do when you can't hold all the pieces, when you can't juggle all the priorities, when everything feels equally urgent and you don't know where to focus first. The sun is climbing toward midday now. People have been listening for hours, shifting position on the hard ground, trying to absorb everything Jesus has said about birds and flowers and tomorrow's troubles and God's care. Some faces show understanding, others confusion, many exhaustion. These are people with real problems pressing on them from all sides. How to feed families, how to pay taxes to Rome, how to navigate religious requirements that feel impossible, how to survive in an economy that favors the powerful and grinds down the ordinary. They've heard Jesus tell them not to worry about food or clothing, that God will provide, that tomorrow will take care of itself. And it's beautiful teaching, but they're also thinking, okay, but practically speaking, what do I actually do? I still have responsibilities. I still have bills. I still have children who need to eat and wear clothes. How do I live in the real world with this teaching? And Jesus gives them something concrete to hold on to, something to orient their lives around. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Seek first, not seek only, not ignore your responsibilities, but first, primary, before everything else. Make this your foundation, your orientation, your North Star that everything else arranges itself around. His kingdom, God's rule, God's presence, God's way of doing things, not the kingdom of anxiety where worry rules your decisions and fear calls the shots, not the kingdom of achievement where you have to earn your worth and prove your value. God's kingdom where you're already loved, already valuable, already held, and you get to live from that truth rather than striving toward it. And his righteousness, God's character, God's goodness, God's way of being in the world. Seeking to reflect that, to embody that, to let that shape who you're becoming. These things, the food, the clothing, the practical needs that anxiety fixates on, will be given to you as well. Not might be given if you're lucky, not could possibly be given if you do everything right, will be given. Because God knows you need them. Your needs aren't news to him. He's aware. And when you make his kingdom and righteousness your first priority, when you orient your life around his presence rather than your problems, somehow, mysteriously, not in ways you can always trace or predict, the things you need find their way to you. This isn't a formula. It's not seek God and you'll get rich prosperity gospel nonsense. It's about what happens internally when you stop making anxiety your organizing principle and start making God's presence your organizing principle. When you wake up in the morning and instead of immediately listing everything you're worried about, you turn toward God first. When you face a decision, and instead of asking, what will maximize my security, you ask, what reflects God's kingdom? There's a reordering that happens. Not that your problems disappear, but that they find their proper size. When God is first, truly first, not just theoretically first, then everything else arranges itself around that reality. Your anxiety becomes one voice among many, rather than the loudest voice that drowns out everything else. Your needs are real and acknowledged, but they're not the totalizing center of your existence anymore. The crowd on the hillside hearing this might still feel anxious, might still worry about tomorrow, might still struggle to imagine how this works practically. But Jesus has given them something to do with their anxiety. Redirect it. Every time you start to worry, turn that energy towards seeking God instead. Every time you start to spin about what ifs, redirect toward God's kingdom. Every time fear starts to organize your day, pause and ask what it would look like to let God's righteousness organize it instead. Tonight, lying here, this teaching isn't asking you to add one more thing to your overwhelmed plate. It's offering you a different way to hold everything you're already carrying. Seek first doesn't mean neglect everything else. It means establish your foundation, your primary reality, your organizing center, and let everything else arrange itself around that. What does it mean tonight, practically, to seek first God's kingdom? It means this moment, this breath, this choice to be here instead of endlessly spinning in your anxiety. It means making rest a priority, not because all your problems are solved, but because God's presence is more foundational than your problems. It means letting this time, this quiet, this stillness, this turning toward God, even in your worry, be your first thing, and trusting that everything else will find its place. Your anxiety wants to be first. It wants to be the lens through which you see everything, the filter through which every decision passes, the baseline reality of your existence. And Jesus is gently, firmly, lovingly saying, no, God first, His kingdom first, His righteousness first. And when that's true, when you actually live from that priority rather than just agreeing with it in theory, the things you're worried about don't have to consume you anymore. We can practice that right now. This moment of rest, of seeking God's presence, of letting anxiety be second instead of first. This is what Jesus was talking about. We're not ignoring our problems. We're just refusing to let them be the organizing center. God first, rest first, presence first. And somehow, mysteriously, when we actually do that, when we actually reorder our priorities that way, everything else finds its place. Your one job right now is just to be here, not to fix anything or solve anything or plan anything, just to be here, seeking rest in God's presence, making this your first thing. That's enough. That's everything. Feel how even just being here, even just this small act of seeking first, takes up space that anxiety usually fills. You don't have to manage your whole life right now. You just have to be here, in this moment, letting God's presence be your primary reality instead of your anxiety. Notice how that feels different, even slightly, even just a little. That difference, that's the reordering Jesus was talking about. We find Jesus at a well in Samaria, speaking to a woman who's been anxious about being accepted her whole life. This is about the deep thirst underneath the surface anxiety, the longing that drives so much of our fear. It's noon, the hottest part of the day when sensible people stay inside, when the sun beats down mercilessly and the air shimmers with heat. Wells are social places in this culture, places where women gather in the early morning or evening when it's cooler, where they talk and laugh and share news while drawing water for their households. But this woman comes at noon alone when she knows she won't encounter the other women. She comes alone on purpose, because facing the other women, their judgment, their whispers, their pointed looks, is worse than bearing the heat. She's learned to time her life around avoiding people, around minimizing the encounters where she has to see herself reflected in others' disgust or contempt or pity. You can see the weight she carries in the way she walks. the careful posture of someone who's learned to make herself small, to take up as little space as possible, to not draw attention. Her water jar is worn, the rope rough in her hands from years of this daily task. She's done this so many times, walked to this well, lowered the jar, pulled up water, carried it home, that her body does it almost without thinking. And then she sees someone sitting by the well. A man. Her first instinct is probably to turn around, to come back later, to avoid the potential interaction. Men at wells mean complications, mean danger of the wrong kind of attention, or the harsh rejection when they realize who she is. But she needs water. She can't leave. So she approaches carefully, eyes down, hoping he'll ignore her. But he doesn't ignore her. He speaks. "Will you give me a drink?" It's a simple request, but it's shocking on multiple levels. He's a Jew. She can tell from his accent, his clothes, and she's a Samaritan. Jews and Samaritans don't interact. There's centuries of hostility between their people, mutual contempt, strict rules about avoiding contamination from each other. Jewish men especially don't speak to Samaritan women. It's not done. It's scandalous even to ask. And she points this out. "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" There's defensiveness in her voice probably, and confusion, and maybe the beginning of hope that's too dangerous to fully feel. Why is this man talking to her? What does he want? Nothing good has ever come from men wanting things from her. But Jesus doesn't respond to the ethnic tension or the gender dynamics. He goes straight to something deeper. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Living water. Water that's alive, moving, fresh from a spring rather than sitting in a well. Water that satisfies in a way that well water never quite can. He's speaking metaphorically, but she doesn't understand yet. She's still thinking practically. "Sir, you have nothing to draw with and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water?" Back and forth they go, Jesus trying to redirect her from the physical thirst she understands to a deeper thirst she's been trying to fill in all the wrong places. And finally, he says it clearly. "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. Water that satisfies permanently. A spring inside you that doesn't run dry, that doesn't need to be constantly refilled from external sources. Self-renewing, abundant, enough." And the woman, still not quite understanding, but catching a glimpse of something she desperately needs, says, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." Won't have to keep coming here. Won't have to keep doing this daily task, but also won't have to keep avoiding people, keep timing her life around shame, keep carrying the weight of being unacceptable. Give me water. That means I don't have to keep doing this exhausting dance of survival. Then Jesus does something that should have made her run. He sees past her defenses and her shame. "Go, call your husband and come back," he says. And she has to admit, "I have no husband." And Jesus gently tells her he already knows. Knows about the 5 men she's been married to. Knows about the man she's with now, who isn't her husband, knows the whole complicated, painful story she's been trying to hide. Knows it and is still sitting here talking to her, still offering her living water, still treating her like someone worth knowing. She tries to deflect, to turn the conversation theological and impersonal. But Jesus won't let her hide. He tells her that he knows she's been worshiping without being able to get to the temple. that she's been trying to find God while being told she's unacceptable to God, that she's been thirsty for something more than water or sex or male approval her whole life. And then he tells her who he is, the Messiah, the one they've all been waiting for. He tells this outcast Samaritan woman, with her complicated history, before he tells the religious leaders, before he tells his own disciples. He offers her living water that will become a spring inside her, not dependent on men accepting her, or women welcoming her, or anyone else validating her existence. Your anxiety might be connected to a deeper thirst, a thirst for acceptance, for worth, for being enough, for belonging, for someone to see all of you, the mess and the failure and the complicated history, and say you're still valuable, still wanted, still worth knowing. And you've maybe been trying to fill that thirst in ways that don't work, that leave you thirstier, that keep you coming back to wells at noon alone and ashamed. Jesus sees that thirst. He sees what's underneath your anxiety. And he's not offering temporary relief that you'll have to keep seeking out every day. He's offering living water that becomes a spring inside you, a source that doesn't run dry, that doesn't depend on external validation, that doesn't require you to keep performing or hiding or managing what people think. The woman left her water jar at the well and ran back to town, the town she'd been avoiding, to tell everyone about Jesus. Her thirst had been quenched in a way that well water never could, and suddenly the fear that had been organizing her whole life didn't have the same power anymore. She wasn't afraid of being seen. She wasn't worried about judgment. She'd met someone who knew everything about her and was still offering her living water, and that changed everything. For you tonight, the invitation is the same. You don't have to keep coming to the same wells, trying to draw enough water to satisfy a thirst that's deeper than what any human source can quench. You don't have to keep managing your anxiety by avoiding or performing or hiding. There's living water available, a spring inside you that comes from being known, fully known, and loved anyway. Notice any tightness in your throat or chest, any place where you're holding the fear of being seen or the shame of not being enough. Let it soften now. You're already drinking from the well just by being here, just by letting yourself rest in God's presence without hiding, without performing. Feel that letting go, that softening, that permission to be thirsty and receive, rather than constantly striving to prove you deserve a drink. The spring is there. The living water is available. You don't have to earn it. You just have to receive it, to let it well up inside you, to trust that it won't run dry even when everything else does.